and Vasishta Maharshi placed his pot on the left side of Lord Maitreya, and they told Lord Maitreya to look after these pots carefully until they came for it on a future date. Now the work of collecting souls by Vishwamitra Maharshi continued. He did this work with great enthusiasm and worked very hard. Otherwise, you would not have been here. By 1921, his first stage of collecting souls was over. The second stage began from 1921 and lasted up to 1951. He was again busy in this work as usual and went on collecting the special souls who were meant to become Vishwamaitri and Shambhala in all the 144,000 centers of the Saptarishis. As this was going on, in the year 1930, the Rishis decided to bring one of the Amshas onto the earth. First, they decided to bring the Amsha of Yamuna. For this, they selected special parents and brought this Amsha into human form in that year. After 14 years and 7 months, the Ganga Amsha was also brought into human form. The difference of 14 years was because Ganga travelled through the 14 lokas before entering the pot. Then, when these Amshas were in human form, Vishwamitra Maharshi took up a special assignment. He found that he could not find any souls available for his work. He searched the different lokas and galaxies and then came to know that in a particular place thousands of souls were still living and enjoying in Swargaloka. He became very angry and destroyed that Swarga called Veera Swarga. Many souls from there started coming on to the earth. He contacted all of them and took them to Satyaloka and made them go through the special purification ceremony and then told them to take a dip in that special fountain lake. He saw to it that all these people got the actual qualities of renunciation in a natural way and then allowed them to enter the earth one by one. The destruction of Veeraswarga was a sight to witness. Vishwamitra Maharshi took the worker into space and showed him how the galaxy burned to ashes. The worker at one instant went near the great fire and it affected his astral body quite seriously. This also made his presence in the physical body very uncomfortable and painful. After the destruction of Veeraswarga, Vishwamitra Maharshi rushed to meet Parabrahma and stayed with him for some time. This act of his was just like a child rushing into the arms of its mother. He returned to Satyaloka to continue his work of collecting the souls who formed the last batch from 1951 to 1981. Soon after, the Ganga Amsha arrived on the earth in human form after 7 years. These two persons having the Amshas were brought together to the Rishi center. They were not told why they were there together, but without knowing anything about their spiritual nature, they wonderfully obeyed the orders of the Rishis and acted accordingly for another 14 years until the Divya Hamsa Puja was performed. Meanwhile, another event took place. There was a great sage known as Tapasviji Maharaj. You might have heard of him. He was none other than Kuchela or Sudama, the classmate of Lord Krishna. He lived through 5,000 years and passed away in 1955. His devotees wanted to erect a statue in marble at Koshi Kalan. When the sculptor was working on this statue, a big chip came off. Not knowing what to do, the sculptor carved a figure of Lord Krishna. At this time, in the Rishi Center in Bangalore, the Yamuna Amsha dreamt of a Krishna statue being brought to the center. Later on, the statue was in fact brought to the center by the only disciple of Tapasviji and placed in the puja room. You will find the statue in God's room. In the year 1951, the rishis started the work of strengthening the special mantra which they used for enrolling members into the Shambhala group. Since the Amshas were already in human form, the rishis decided to represent them by placing bronze marks on the parts. They also requested Sri Krishna to be present during the period from 1951 to 1965. Nearly 700 rishis took part in the actual energizing activities in Shambhala. As this city was ideal for all such purposes, their work proceeded smoothly and successfully with the blessings of Sri Krishna. In the year 1965, the Divyahamsa Puja was performed. The two bronze face masks representing Ganga and Amara were brought from Shambhala to the Rishi Center and placed there after the puja was over. The Amshas of Ganga and Yamuna and Brahmaputra were installed in the face masks and the Krishna's idol. The two Amshas started operating from this mask, and they also controlled the respective human bodies. It was only after that Ganga and Yamuna Amshas were informed a little about their importance and the Rishi's works. And another 14 years passed. The mantra Om Gangaya Yamunaya Brahmaputraya Namaha was strengthened by the Rishis in a different way in Shambhala Grama. 700 Rishis, as mentioned before, were engaged in strengthening the mantra for a period of 28 years. At the end of 28 years, the first group of Shambhala members were taken in. Then afterwards, the other two groups were taken into this Shambhala group. The mantra that was used 3 times for enrolling members into the inner circle in all the 144,000 centers lost all its power, and the work of taking members into Shambhala group was stopped. With this activity, the work for which the Ganga and Yamuna Amshas were brought to the earth was over. These two persons shall remain on the earth as long as they are able to spend their accumulated karmas as also their parental karmas and genetic effects, and also continue to take part in the works of the rishis. The members of the inner circle have to attain a stage known as Divya Purusha stage by going through all the Shambhala initiations in future and thus become the first beings of Satyuga or God's kingdom. The coming few years are full of pralayas. There is every danger of the pots being not safe even in Shambhala. Very soon they will be shifted to Suryaroka, where they will remain until the Halley's comet approaches our solar system. At this, Vishwamitra Maharshi and other Apsaras and Gandharvas will be present in Suryaroka when the comet on its journey comes nearest to the sun. The Apsaras and Gandharvas, assisted by Vishwamitra Maharshi, will carry the pots back to Satyaloka through the cometary path and place them in a safe place in the ashrama of Kashyapa Maharshi. When this work is over and when the comet is still in the sky, Maharishi Vishwamitra will descend down to earth in a human form to to continue his works. Now, Bharadwaja Maharishi says, this is your history. You should come out, cut asunder all obstructions and barriers that are there on the material side or on the mental side or on the social side. You must come out victorious as Vivekananda or a Christ or a Muhammad or Lord Buddha. Every one of you can become a Christ. You have got all that strength in you. From what you have heard so far, you can do that just now, this very moment. You have all the strength. So, he expects all of you to straightaway become realized persons, become spiritual giants, and tell the people that the time for unrighteousness is over and righteous people alone can survive. Hereafter, because the kingdom of God is here as Satyuga has dawned, you must tell others also that since the time has changed, you can become a God yourself. For this purpose, Bharadwaja Maharishi says, don't try to live like an ordinary person. You must come out like a big banyan tree. The seed of the banyan tree is very small, but when it grows up, it becomes a huge and big tree. Similarly, you should grow out to be a very powerful spiritual being on this earth and see that kingdom of God is established now on this earth. And Satyuga is here today. You must make such decisions. This is the purpose of Bharadwaja Maharishi speaking today. He says finally, awake, arise and stop not until the goal is reached.